Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Gittin. We are up to Perek Gimel Mishnah Vav. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'ilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbaev Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelov Chana bat Miriam Sason ben Raya and Yoshua ben Shifra Menuchatam beGan Eden Amen and Avdi ben Chaim lechaim v'derefua shelema Daniel Shalom ben Rosa betoch Shar Cholei Israel. The previous Mishnah taught what a person bringing a get from place to place in Eretz Yisrael should do when he falls sick and is unable to deliver the get himself. This Mishnah teaches what must be done if this happened when bringing a get from overseas to Eretz Yisrael. If an agent bringing a get from overseas to Eretz Yisrael becomes ill on the way and is unable to deliver the get, he should go to the court, and the court appoints another agent and sends him to deliver the get. In the Mishnah found in the Gemara, the reading is a little differently. It says, he makes another agent in court and sends him. The agent who brought the get cannot appoint another agent without going to court, because when a get from outside Eretz Yisrael is delivered, the person delivering it must testify that he saw it being written and signed, like we learned in chapter 1, Mishnah 1, and the second agent will not be able to do this since he did not see it. And the Mishnah explains how this problem is resolved when the court appoints a second agent. V'omer lifnehem, the first agent says before the court when he hands over the get to the second agent, Befanai nechtav ufanai nechtam, the get was written in my presence and signed in my presence. Since the second agent who was to deliver the get cannot make this declaration, the first agent does so before the court, placing the matter in their hands. The second agent may then take the get and deliver it to the wife. And the second agent, the last agent, does not have to say when he delivers the get to the wife, the get was written in my presence and signed in my presence. Rather, he only has to say, I am an agent of the court, and it will then be assumed that the proper procedure was followed by the court, and they heard the first agent testify that he saw the writing and signing of the get. And that is the end of Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Zayin returns to the topic of relying on the chazakah that a person is still alive. This was explained in Mishnayot, in this chapter Mishnayot 3 and 4. The Mishnah discusses how this affects the laws of Terumah and Maaser. Now, crops grown in Eretz Yisrael are subject to certain portions, tithes, that must be separated from the crop and distributed as prescribed by the Torah. The first of these is Terumah, usually about a 50th of the crop, which is given to a Kohen, which is forbidden for a non-Kohen to eat. The second is Maaser Rishon, the first tithe, 1/10 of the remainder of the crop, which is given to a Levi, who must then separate 1/10 of that and give it to a Kohen. The final tithe is Maaser Sheni, the second tithe, also 1/10 of the remainder, which is separated from the crop and eaten by the owner in Jerusalem. However, during the third and sixth 60 years of the 7-year Shemitah cycle, Maaser Ani, the poor man's tithe, is separated instead of Maaser Sheni and is given to the poor. Our Mishnah does not discuss Maaser Sheni. Crops that require tithing may not be used until the tithes are separated. The Mishnah begins, Hamalveh ma'ot et ha-kohen v'et ha-levi v'et ha-ani. If someone lends money to a Kohen, a Levi, or a poor person, liot mafrish alen mechalkan, with the understanding that he will separate from his own crop their portions, Terumah, Maaser Rishon, and Maaser Ani, and keep them as payment for the loans. Now, meaning the lender will deduct the value of what he keeps from the amount of the loan. However, he must first separate the Terumah, Maaser Rishon, and Maaser Ani, because if he does not, he will not be able to use the rest of the crop. In the case of Terumah, which only a Kohen may eat, if the lender is not a Kohen, he may sell it to a Kohen and keep the money as payment for the loan. In the case of Maaser Rishon and Maaser Ani, which anyone may eat, the lender may eat them himself, except that with Maaser Rishon, he must first separate 1/10 of it for a Kohen. Now the Mishnah speaks of a case where the Kohen, Levi, or poor person is the one to whom the lender usually gives these tithes. If they are not, they have no claim on these tithes and cannot assign them to the lender as payment. In such a case, the lender must first have someone else acquire the tithe for the borrower and then take it back from him as payment for the loan. Mafrish alein b'chizkat she'en kayamin, he may continue to separate the portions and subtract the value from the loan on the assumption that these borrowers are still alive. V'no choshesh shema meta kohen or levi or ashir ani. And he does not need to be concerned that the Kohen or Levi might have died, or that the poor person might have become wealthy, in which case he would not be allowed to keep their portions. The Mishnah will soon teach that if the borrowers die, the lender cannot collect the debt from the tithes unless he receives permission from the borrower's heirs if they're also Kohanim or Levim. Similarly, if the poor man became wealthy, he is no longer entitled to receive Maaser Ani, and so the lender cannot collect his debt by keeping the Maaser Ani. Rather, we don't assume this. Rather, based on Chazakah, we may assume that the Kohen and Levi are still alive and that the poor person is still poor and alive. The Mishnah now teaches the law where we know for certain that the borrowers have died. Metu, if the borrowers, meaning the Kohen, Levi, or poor person died, tzich litol reshut min hayoshin, the lender must receive permission from the heirs. The Mishnah refers to a case where the heirs must pay the dead borrower's debt to continue taking the tithes as payment for the loans, since the heirs may want to pay the debt some other way, and now with Tiruman Maaser, however, if the lender lent a Kohen, Levi, or poor person money in the presence of a court with the arrangement that we described above, that he will collect the debt from their portions of Tiruman Maaser, and they died, and he does not need to receive permission from the heirs to continue keeping the Tiruman Maaser as payment for the loan. This is because the court has the authority to require all Kohanim, Levim, and poor people to give up their rights to these portions of Tiruman Maaser in order to pay the dead man's debt. The court does this for the benefit of all, because without this guarantee of repayment in the case of the borrower's death, Kohanim, Levim, and poor people might have difficulty finding people to lend them money. And that is an Abotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.